when you listen to these words, the immediate response from the mind is, you are something and I am something. Jo tum girvar, tao hum mora. Now, girvar is the term used for the largest hill that you can, mountain that you can conceive of. Girvar, pahad, na pahad. So, since we know Himalaya to be the greatest one, we can call. Jautam girvar tau ham mora. More is a little bird. More. And that's how we perceive this. Immediately started. Jautam chanda tau ham bhai han chakora. It never comes to our mind that how can this statement be saying this? That then if you are something, then I am also something. Albeit I may be small as compared to you, yet I am something. But if I am, how can you be? And if you are, how can I be? But the lines are saying exactly the same thing. The lines are giving us the perception as if Bhagat Ravidas is saying, you are something, maybe great one, but I am also something, maybe small one. And when you, if you catch yourself thinking that way and say, stop, Bhagat could not be saying this, there's something else hidden in there. He's using some parables, some meanings. Bhagat can never ever compare himself to the ultimate. It's not a comparison. It appears to be so to the intellect. So then what it is? Step back behind the symbol and you'll see it, and then we'll come back to the topic that was chosen last time. I just wanted to share this thoughts were running in my mind. The mountain has a characteristics. It's immovable, and on the scale of time actually is more stable than anything else. A mountain has a symbol of stability and longevity, whereas a bird has a lifespan which is in months and years, not on the scale of time. Bird is destructible with a very temporary life, even though the bird is very beautiful. मोर के पांख बहुत खूबसूरत होते हैं, रंगदार होते हैं, अच्छा लगता है, नाचता है, गाता है, कुहू कुहू की आवाजें निकालता है, but they are all temporary, short-lived, as compared to the mountains. So what is the message here? The message is that you are always beyond the time and indestructible, immovable, whereas I am on the span of time nothing, destructible. जाओ तो चंदा तो हम भय हैं चकोरा. Now, that little bird, Chakor, when the moon comes up, it does nothing to him. Doesn't give him food, doesn't give him life, doesn't give him peace of mind, nothing. There is no personal thing that the coming up of the moon can help that Chakora. Yet, he has only one thing, and that is happy to see. Darshan karke khush hai. There is no demand, koi maang nahi. Human being ordinarily, whenever he goes somewhere, it always has some demand, some purpose, some reason. मंदिर में गए हैं तो कुछ मांगने के लिए गए हैं, मस्जिद में गए हैं तो कुछ मांगने के लिए गए हैं, गुरुद्वारे में गए हैं कुछ मांगने के लिए गए हैं. दर्शन करने के लिए कभी जाते ही नहीं. सिर्फ आया हूं दर्शन करने के लिए. किसका? जिसका भी, जो भी मेरा इष्ट है, जिसको भी मैं भगवान कहता हूं, मैं तो सिर्फ देखने के लिए आया. I have no other desire. I'm not going to pray, I'm not going to ask, I'm just going to sit in your presence. We never do that. But Bhakta Ravidas says, जाओ तुम चंदा तो हम भय हैं चकोरा. So that's the relationship. I just want to be able to be in your presence. Like a chakora has no demand from the moon, I have no demand. जो तुम दीवरा तो हम बाती, वो मट्टी का दिया जिसमें अभी आप दीपावली जला के देखिए, मट्टी का दिया रह जाता है पर बाती जल जाती है, दीवरा नहीं जलता कभी. उसमें तेल रह जो है, घी जो है वो जल जाएगा, जो बाती है वो जल जाएगी, दीवरा नहीं जलेगा. अगेन द सेम मैसेज, यू आर इनडिस्ट्रक्टिबल, आई एम डिस्ट्रक्टिबल. जो तुम तीरथ आओ हम जाति. तीर्थ से यात्रा करने वाले आते जाते रहेंगे. तीर्थ यात्रा goes anywhere. So when you start thinking in it, now look how the same lines, same stanzas, same thing has turned out totally different. They were meant to say something totally different. It was not meant to reinforce the ego कि तुम भी कुछ हो तो हम भी कुछ हैं. And then he says, Sachi Preet, हम तुमसे जोरी, तुमसे जोर अवर से तोरी. Now, here he is making a question. He says, I think my love for you is true, but how do I know? Only you can know. Because if you don't accept this, you don't accept me, you can accept the other one because you have choice. The question is, what's my choice? If I break away from you, if I turn my mind away from you, my face away from you, if I go away from you, is there somebody higher than you, better than you, who I should be going after? So I don't have the choice. But that's my only thinking, that maybe that's why it is true, but I don't know. So if I don't know, how would I know? He says, you can tell me. How? तुम नहीं तोड़ो पिया, हम मैं नहीं तोड़ो. I cannot either make it or break it. भक्ति करने के लिए भी उसकी कृपा चाहिए. अगर उसकी कृपा नहीं है तो भक्ति कर नहीं सकते आप. So he says, तुम नहीं तोड़ो प्रभु जी तो मैं नहीं तोड़ो. See, I don't have the capacity either to start it or to break it. Because तुम स्यों तोड़ कवन संग जोर है. I have no alternative, I have no choices. So now the bhajan has taken a totally different dimension. So I want to share with you that for a few moments. You can build on it and maybe later on we can talk about it a little bit more if you wanted to. Because the mystical literature, as I have been trying to say, can never ever be understood by the intellect. Impossible. Science and grammar can never ever get to it where the mystical literature is taking us. Now the last time there were two topics that we wanted to touch, and I'm sensitive to the time, so rather than building up too much thoughts on it, in about 15 minutes I will share with you. There were two questions. One question was the purpose of life, meaning of life. Second question was creation versus evolution. Let's take briefly the purpose of life. Let me state categorically to you that anybody who tells you that they know the purpose of life, they are lying. Why? they have presented models. You will immediately object and say, the Vedas and the Puranas and Guru Granth and Gita, and everybody is defining, and you are saying they are lying. Yes, they are lying. And they will tell you themselves that they are lying. Any one of you who had ever studied the Vedanta formally in the University of Banaras in India at once upon a time was the center of this type of formal training. Shwetaketu has been known in the history. Father sent Shwetaketu to Banaras University to cut the meaning of life. So naturally, these names, I don't know, probably most of you know that, the Vedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, Vedi, these names actually, these were not the khas. These were the title given for the awareness of Vedas. The one who masters all the 4 Vedas were Chaturvedi. घर में पैदा होने जैसे वेदी नहीं बनता था, आजकल बन गए. वहां जाना पड़ता था बनारस यूनिवर्सिटी में, and then you would get these titles. Now MAs and PhDs and bachelors, etc. we got. They had these type of titles also. Simrtiyan, Shrutiyan, those granths, those who study Simrtis, there are 108 of them, and they had these titles. श्रीमान 108 जो था ना, जो हमने लगा दिया सबके साथ, उसका मतलब ये था कि उसने 108 स्मृतियों की स्टडी करके उसके ऊपर अपनी इंडिपेंडेंट विचारधारा बनाई है. वो इसलिए एक श्रीमान 108 बनते थे. Anyway, so Shwetaketu was sent to Banaras University to get the answer. Spent the entire life, about middle age, about 45 when he came back home and came back to father. And he had all these degrees. So father says, what have you learned? He says, all the literature and all the things that the university had to offer, I have studied them all and passed the examination, and here is the proof of it. So the father says, what can you tell me about the one which cannot be told about? Look at the question. What can you tell me about the one who cannot be told about, who cannot be explained? What can you explain about the one who cannot be explained? He says, what kind of a paradoxical question is this? You yourself just said, the one who cannot be explained, say something about him. So why would I try him? He said, well, did the teacher ever discuss it? No, that topic never came up. Because it's stupid even to start when you, in the beginning you know the one that cannot be explained, so why just try? And Shwetaketu's father said that, I thought I can pass on my heritage to you, but today you have disappointed me, because this heritage cannot be given without being able to say something about the unexplainable. So go back to the university and go find that one who can talk about that one. Now I gave you this example because what I'm saying that from the day one, this attempt has been made. And I faced personally this crisis about 30 years ago, even more than that, about 40 years ago. When I had this question in me and I went to someone and said, I want the answer. And I was pointed out to a chapter in one of the Upanishads. And that chapter basically only said, whatever you have been told, whatever you have read so far, is all a lie. And the next shloka says, why is that a lie? Because in order to answer this question, you have to be the actual witness of the event. If you want to answer this question, then when the life was being created, you have to be a witness yourself. Now we know that there is no witness of the Creator. He is one. So then why try? There are about 5 models, and I'll share with you the 5 models, and you can pick one, whichever one ever you like. That's why I say these are not the answers, these are the models perceived by the saints in that level of awareness. So imagine yourself to be that primordial force, that primordial energy. You want to call it God, you want to call it anything, it's yours. Imagine that energy becoming conscious for the first time that I am energy, I am that I am. That's what the Bible calls it. I am that I am. That energy, I am that I am, when it becomes aware that I am, what is the next logical thing that will come there? The next logical thing is, who am I? I am that I am, but who am I? So this energy, how does it answer the question, who am I? If I want to ask that question of myself and say, who am I? What is my first response to it? If you ask me, who are you? What do you think my immediate reaction is going to be? And that's going to say, I'm just one thing. And you can immediately challenge it and say, if your father and mother had named you something else, would you be any different? If instead of just one thing, if you are Pyara Singh, would you be any different? And the answer is no. Why? Because name is just a symbol. It could be anything. So that means that answer to that question is totally inaccurate. If somebody says, who are you, and you give your name, actually you are not telling who are you. It's incorrect answer. So this entity, this primordial energy, when it asks the question, who am I, what does it do? The only choice, because there is nothing else, the only choice left is to look at yourself. So what he does, he breaks a part of himself and looks at it and says, is this what, who am I? What's going to be the answer? No. Okay, if I am not this, let me create another part. Am I this? The answer is again no. So no matter in how many forms and in how many shapes and in how many dimensions the question is asked, the answer will be no. Why? Because the questioner is a part of the whole. And a part can never know the whole, can never be equal to the whole. So what's the purpose of life? What's going on? One model says that primordial energy creates everything. This life, this life, this life, this life, this life. It creates everything and asks the question after creation, is this who am I? The answer is no, so it creates another one. And ad infinitum the question, I need to know who am I. And after a while, he'll get tired of asking that question and he'll start putting it back and say, well, if I was not this, put two of two together and say, am I this one now? Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th master in Sikhs, says that, jab ud karh kara kar tara, parja tar tab de apara, jab a karh kart ho kab hu, tum mein milt de thar sab hu. Meaning, when you felt like, when you were just one egg, you became an egg, many. And when you get tired of becoming an egg, you will again contract into one. वेदांत ने क्या किया? प्रलय आ जाए. Christians are still waiting for that final day when this will happen. This is one model that he's asking that question, who am I? And creating. Second model, which is the most common prevalent model in the Hindu philosophy. And the parable is that when you go to the beach and you take children with you, and they prepare with their plastic pails and buckets and everything, and they're going to go there and make sand castles. So if you are asking the child at that moment, when he is building the castle, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm building a castle. But why? Well, I'm playing. I'm having fun. Okay. Alright, good. Continue, have fun. But the nature of that fun is such that when the evening falls and we are ready to come home, and we tell the child, go wash your feet and put your shoes on, he says, oh, wait a minute, I have something to do first. He goes to that castle and kicks with the foot and breaks it. And he's laughing his heart out. And you can go to and ask the same question, what are you doing? I just broke the castle. Why? I'm playing. I'm having fun. A play, a game, may have some rules and regulations, but it has no other purpose except fun. And that's what Krishna said, it is Leela. It is a play. It's a game. The whole creation is a game, it's a Leela, and it's meant for having fun. Now, you can say, well, if he's having fun, how come I'm not having fun? And the answer is very simple. He is having fun because he is neither attached with the creation nor the destruction. Both actions are okay, like the child. I am not having fun because the creation was okay for me, but the destruction is not. Sukha was okay for me, but dukkha is not. Pleasure was okay for me, but the pain is not. But does the child feel a pain when he breaks that castle away? On the contrary, you feel more. Sara din mehnat kiti hone nu kyu hai? I'll leave it alone for a day or so, let somebody see it. No, he wants to destroy it before going home. He's having a play. That is the second model, most prevalent in the Hindu philosophy. Sikhism also accepts it. Vikhe vikse kar vichar, nanak kathana karda sar. He has created it. Api ne aap sajyo. First he created himself, Swabhan. Api ne rachyo now. Dui kudrat sajiye. Karyasana ditho chao. Second thing he did. Dui, second. First he did. Api ne aap. First he created himself. Second thing he did, created the whole universe. The creation, the Maya. Api ne aap sajyo. Api ne rachyo now. Because he didn't have a mother and a father to give him name. And he did what? Dui kudrat saji. And then what? He says, then he became the part of the nature. Kar asana. To the normal comparison given is that that particular vase was made by somebody. That form, that shape was made by somebody. But that somebody who made that vessel is sitting in another home, and this vessel is sitting in this home. This creation and the creator are separate. You can actually see them separate. This painting is sitting here, the painter is somewhere else. You can see them separately. The difference between this creation and this creation is that its creator actually sitting right inside it. Karyasan, he first created and then became part of the creation. He did not stay outside. You may have noticed that dancing became a part of meditation in Nataraj. We go to India and we buy these statues of poses of Nataraj having a dance. Actually, there was a mystical reason of the dance becoming the symbol of meditation. A painter can be separate. A sculptor can be separate. But a dance and a dancer can never be separate. Dance and the dancer cannot. Dance cannot be brought home and displayed. Dance remains with the dancer. So, if the dancer, while dancing, can become part of the dance that only dance remains, you have achieved the ultimate state of experience, blissfulness. And that's why dance is a form of art which was used as a symbol of meditation. So this creator, once he became part of the creation, what are you doing? Sitting inside, he says, Kar asana ditto. He's watching it, and then, ciao. He's having fun. He's having happiness with it. I may be sad by watching a child suffering with a fever or with pain. He's above it. He's not. Because he's looking at the totality. We only see the half, and we only want to see the half. Hence, we don't feel that purpose of life. And the purpose of life in that model is a play with both positive and negative actions and reactions. That's another model that came from that part of the world. And the last model, the purpose of life, is the discovery model. The discovery model says that I know I am part of the bigger, so hence I am going to remember. What's the word? It is not remember, it's remember. Become the member again. You have gone away. Remembering is becoming a part of him again. And the only way you do that is the parable that I have shared with some of my friends here, is that on the beach, those salt lumps, because the salt comes from the ocean, that salt lump, there are lumps of salt sitting on the beach, and they are comparing notes as we compare notes. Where is your village, where is your home, where did you come from? And they're asking, where did you come from? And the answer is, we came from there. That's my home. The next question is, how big is your home? I don't know. And everybody feels very stupid that we have spent our entire life in there and we don't know how big that our home is, that ocean is. And now the discovery process starts. One says, I'll go find out and I'll come back and tell you. And he takes a jump. And he goes a little deep and says, have I touched the surface yet? The answer is no. So he goes a little deeper and says, have you touched the surface yet? The answer is no. So he keeps on pushing himself lower and lower and lower, but something else starts happening simultaneously, which is he starts dissolving. He never touches the bottom and he becomes a part of the ocean. The discovery. Who am I? How big that is? The questioner starts asking that question, what is my purpose? Who am I? And as deeper he goes, slowly, the answer never comes back. The questioner becomes the part of the total. The drop falls back into the ocean. So the purpose of life, if you look at the Christian model, they will tell you very simply. Their model is, this is a school. And in this school, every entity is here to learn one lesson, and only one lesson. And that is how to love. Because love is God, God is love. How to love. The total objective of life in Christian model is learn to love. And when we started this group, that was our first topic. That love, what we call love, is not what Christian model says. Learn to love. So those are few of the models describing. There is no esoteric. Nobody has the absolute answer. None of the religions. This last model that I can share with you, this comes from Zen Buddhism. The parable of the salt dissolving in the ocean comes from Zen Buddhism. The first model I shared with you actually comes from the modern Christianity research that's going on. If anybody wants to study that more in detail, because I'm trying to make it brief, you can read that a trilogy of books written by Neil Walsh. He's condensing those. It's a condensation of there was earlier book written, and that was there were also 3 books written, and this gentleman has then taken that model and run with it, and it's Conversation with God, and in which that question is asked, and he then condenses the entire Christian thought into this one single model, and you can study that. The second model came from the Hindu Vedanta philosophy: Gita, Leela, play, drama, ras. See, we make fun of these things, but these are symbolic stories. You know, Krishna was not a playboy as we portray him. It was a creation of, it was a manifestation of a Leela, a drama. It's not something to be laughed at. Those stories, when we read and we are so nonchalant about it, these are symbolic stories. Gopiyan da jana, nahana, bastar chorana, makhan khana. These are symbolic gestures trying to point out to some directions. Someday we will take each one of these parables and go deeper into them. But the Leela model that was introduced by Krishna. Okay? And we can discuss that later on a little bit. In brief, the creation versus evolution. Now, the difference between creation versus evolution. Creation assumes a primordial energy, a force, which is the source of it all. And the problem comes in, well, who created him? And it fails miserably, because all you can say is created himself. And that model doesn't go beyond that. So when you believe that somebody else created it, the rest of the drama starts. The evolutionist says, instead of a primordial energy, it was a primordial dust with such a infinite gravity force that when it exploded with a big bang, and then it cooled off, and then the water and and they try to explain the evolution of the human from that, following the Darwinian model. Now, rather than going into the validity of each, the fundamental question for the mankind is that it is an assumption. You have to start with an assumption. Whether you assume an energy doing it all, or whether you assume a cosmic dust already being there, then same question will be, where did the cosmic dust come from? And they cannot go beyond that. They stop right there also. But I will give you another test. If the evolution is so true, there has been no reference by science yet that another monkey became a man for thousands of years. They talk of that. If the first vegetation becomes the first fish, and then it becomes the first land animal, and then the first land animal becomes the first man, what happened to that creative force after this come up to here? Why don't we hear nowadays, again, that the science has just discovered another monkey turning into another man? Why did evolution completely stop after that? Why isn't that? They are finding millions and millions of years of skeleton and minting money by the dinosaur bones. No scientist has come forward after Darwin and say, here is another proof. Here was a monkey and here is his ancestor, or here was a fish and he just started walking on the ground. It couldn't be just that it happened then and now that energy is totally gone. To me, that is a theory to explain with the intellect, a sequence of events. Whether it happened or not, they cannot prove it. Just as an evolutionist creationists cannot say with confidence. It can only accept on faith, whichever that faith is. My spiritual master said that, so I believe it. Guru Granth Sahib says, Arbad Narbad Tundu Kara. He says, is the Arbad Narbad means when the time wasn't there was a complete darkness, and in that darkness there was consciousness, and that consciousness became into many. That's how all of the spiritualist systems have tried to explain it. Is it true? We go back to the answer. How would ever the part be able to know the whole? Guru Bani says, Pita ka janam keh jane poot. How would the child ever explain the birth of his own father when he cannot explain his own birth? What does he know about it? So who's the child here? The child is this intellect, the one who is questioning. And the questions are of the moment of the time when the intellect itself wasn't born. It wasn't there yet. Hence, you can wonder about them, and you can be mystified about them, and you can satisfy your children with these answers. But eventually you will reach a stage where the questioner itself will have to stop. The perfect answer will not come out. So with that, I want to thank you for the patience. My sincere apologies, even though best laid plans went away. It was so funny that even the airport would not let me get out. Once I landed, one of those vans that pick up the passengers, they had the accidents, and they blocked all, because they wanted to now do the inquiry, they blocked all the exits. So I couldn't get out from there. And then 4 or 5 won't be here. And if none of you belong to the police that department, then I can tell you that I did not let the needle get down from 90. Thank you very much all.
Does the Bible really say somewhere that I am that, or have you seen that in the Bible?
This is the Christian model, yeah. When they explain the story of the Moses, because Bible goes into, it starts from Abraham. Okay, Abraham considered to be the actual father of the 3 religions. Okay, and when they explain about Moses, that's where they give that statement that Moses asks, how would they trust me? You are giving me these 10 commandments. How would they trust me? Why wouldn't they say that you have gone on the mountain and carved these things yourself? And the quotation there is, tell them, I am that I am, gave you this. And it is a very common parable that is used. Normally, earlier they used to call the one who has no name. That was, the word God actually is a very later invention. Jesus himself never used the word God. He said, my Father. Now, my Father actually was not to be used, interpreted in the terms of the biological or even spiritual father. What he was trying to say, word Father is used by him, my Creator, and I am the creation. He is the Creator. Hence, because of the time and space he was going through, kings and the slaves, or the family, father or the mother, those were the paradigms, those were the symbols that were known to mankind. So he was addressing the home of my Father, meaning the Creator. I am the only begotten Son did not mean that he was the pure one. He was saying, I am the Creator. This is the only creation. The Son did not mean Jesus Christ. Son meant that Father, its creation. how can that creation be hated and judged and punished and rewarded as it became ingrained into the Judaism? See, that's why Moses is not considered as a mystic. Moses is considered as a lawgiver. You probably might have seen a whole movie was made. Is Moses actually a mystic? The answer was no. He created laws to govern the society. There is nothing in those laws which help you to go into the mystical dimension. Similarly, if you read Quran, you will find that Quran manages the society beautifully. The mystical aspect of it is not with the Shia or Sunnis, it is with the Sufis. If you talk to a Sufi, they will talk of Quran in a totally different fashion than if you talk to a mullah. Similarly, if you want to understand Christianity, you need to find an Essene, Essenes. There is a group of people called Essenes, just as Sufis. They have taken the mystical aspect of Christianity and modeled into the spirituality, and the model they have used is the repentance. It's a friction model, repentance model. That's why this notion of come and admit your sins. That's a bhakti bhavana, repentance. I am at fault if you are not available to me. Christianity followed that model to the extreme, repentance. If you don't know yourself and admit it openly, and they came up with the definition of a saint. The definition of a saint by Essenes is, if anything and everything that you have ever done or thought is published to the entire universe, you should not be ashamed of it. Let me repeat that. If everything that you have ever done or thought, now you know our thoughts become our dreams. If this is published to the entire universe and you are not ashamed of any one of them, you are a saint. So now it is such an impossible definition to live by. So how do you practice it? Jesus came back with the model of repentance. Declare it openly. This is my thought. This is my act. This is what I'm visualizing. Don't hide it. Declare it. Out of that, church turned it around and turned it into a confession. So on the day of a confession, you first give the money to the church and then you confess and then you are absolved and you come home, you're ready for the next. Next week you can do some more. To answer your questions, the spiritual aspect of it in Judaism is not with the Jews, it's with the Kabbalists. Similarly, if you see the entire Vedanta movement, but where did the spirituality go? To the Shankara. Nobody talks about that. Only talks about the ritual. Right? Ramanuj and all these people actually practiced those things, Patanjalis and yogas, and achieved a state of being, blissfulness. So the real essence stays away from the main masses, because we get caught by this sukha and dukkha and a positive and a negative and plain and the pleasures, rather than going beyond it. So the long answer to your question is yes, it is. When you read that particular parable in that Bible, you will find that answer. Any other comment?
I still don't understand what is the purpose of life.
Are you willing to play?
I don't know. What is the purpose? I don't know
What is the purpose of a play?
Isn't it simplified terms, you can say, the purpose of ordinary life is to fulfill these duties?
No, but that's, see, you have taken this next step.
Purpose of the spiritual life is to realize.
The question was, why the life there to begin with? Once you are in life, now what you do is a different story. Right? The question was, why the life itself? We are one step away from it. Okay, now once I am in the life, now what I'm doing with it, that's my choices. Those are a bunch of choices given to me. As Kabir says, har hai khand ret mein bikhri hasti chuni na jaye. He says this on the beach, on the sand, the kernel of truth is spread like a grain of sweets, sugar everywhere. It's your decision how you pick up the kernel of the truth. He says, har hai khand ret mein bikhri hasti chuni na jaye. Then what do you say? Aise kaho Kabir gur bhari dikhai chinti hoye ke khaye. Hasti, the elephant, has only one way of picking up the sand. Put the trunk, take a deep breath. There may be some kernel of truth in that one. There may be one, but it is more surrounded by the sand. But the little ant has learned the trick. She knows only to pick up one grain, not the entire thing. What does it mean? Mean that so long as the intellect is like elephant, it will grab all the junk, egoistic. When the ego becomes dissolved, as if it is such a small thing like a little ant, it will get one grain of truth and run with it. Doesn't need a whole lot of it. Doesn't need a whole lot of it. Bhakti करने के लिए कितना का knowledge चाहिए? How much do you need? You need some technique and some way and some method to start the practice, right? No, if you can sit here and talk all your life, ये करना चाहिए, ये नहीं करना चाहिए, that's fine. Continue, discuss. Keep on discussing all your life. And that is collecting the sand around you. But drop this desire of collecting the knowledge and go after the knowing, go after the experience. You need just one word. That's it. Just one word. How many Bhakts were scholars and PhDs? How many saints went to the universities? Do you know how Vivekananda actually got caught by this? Totally illiterate saint. And this guy coming from the fully literate, knowledgeable and full of books. Now they struck a friendship. You don't have the knowledge, but I don't know. I have the knowledge. You don't know how to get the knowledge, but I don't know how to say it. Well, let me give you the knowledge and you find the way to communicate it. Do you know that Vivekananda did not achieve the state of blissfulness 3 days before his death? Because he was actually the deliverer of the message. He still had the desire of collecting the knowledge and communicating the knowledge. His master did it. वो बेचारा बेगाल में बस आराम से बैठा. विवेकानंद को जाओ अमेरिका जाओ, घूमो फिरो, दुनिया को इंप्रेस करो, बातें सब करो, ठीक है. When he was ready to really do the knowing, he had to come back home, drop all the garbage and concentrate on that one word. So none of the saints, चाहे कबीर है, फरीद है, रविदास है, you know many more of such. मीराबाई के कौन से कॉलेज में गई थी? All she needed was just one statue. She knew what statue meant. Right? You heard the story of Mirabai. 7 साल की बच्ची और फकीर के हाथ में छोटी सी तस्वीर वो देख लेती है, उसका पत्थर की मूर्ति, और मां के जाके गले में रोके पड़ती है कि ये मूर्ति इस फकीर से ले दो. और मां उस फकीर को इतना धन देने के लिए तैयार है कि मेरी बच्ची रो रही है, इसको ये मूर्ति दे दो. वो देता नहीं, कहता वो मेरा भगवान, मैं इसको कैसे दे दूं, मैं कैसे बेच दूं. He goes back home. And the story is that he cannot sleep all night. And he keeps on getting the message, you haven't done the right thing. You haven't done the right thing. And next morning, he comes back running to that home, and Meera didn't sleep all night either. She's crying. 7 साल की बच्ची को क्या पता हो सकता है but she knew. And from that day onward, मेरे तो गिरधर गोपाल दूसरा ना कोई. बस बात खत्म हो गई. क्या और नॉलेज करना है? क्या पढ़िए, क्या सुनिए, क्या वेद पुराना गुनिए, पढ़े लिखे क्या होई, जो साहेब न मिले हो सोई. ये कबीर कह रहे हैं. क्या पढ़िए, क्या गुनिए, क्या वेद पुराना सुनिए, पढ़े सुने क्या होई, जो साहेब ना मिले हो सोई. If you didn't get there, what use was it? It's a good, nice thing, and we can sit in friends and pass some time. That's good. आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं?
Well, no, what I was thinking, I started with the first interpretation of the Bible which you said. To me, I interpreted that we all have a piece of it. We cannot exist without that piece. And like you are the body, I mean, body cannot exist without the existence of the real, like that. You are both Bhagavad. That's the way I interpret it for that part.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that interpretation. I'm not condemning. I'm just trying to take to the next stage. Because if you are and I am also, then the duality maintains.
Yeah, see, if I think that way, then the purpose of life is a very, in a way, it gets into very simple interpretation. That whole purpose of this life is to meet with that superior power or energy or whatever. That's what it should be. And though all this five models you explained could be the different way of achieving that. But that's the way.
See, the question, see, again, it's a very subtle distinction. The question that was raised was not once you are in life. The question was why life itself. अगर मिलना ही है तो बिछड़ी क्यों? अगर फिर उसी के पास जाना है तो वहां से वापस इधर चले ही किस लिए थे? What was the idea? Why did not the entity stay with the ultimate? Why did the drop leave the ocean to begin with? If again you're going to go back anyway, why leave? That was the question. And the answer is, there is no answer. You can only pick up few models here and there. There is no answer. And anybody who says, I have found it, he wants some money from you. Watch your pockets.
This is Maya's cave, you think that this is Maya's cave.
Yes.
That's what it's like.
So, the reality is that, let me bring it down to the earth level. In Gurbani, Nanak answered this question in the very first stanza of his Japji. He says, if you can remember this one thing, which is Hukam Razai Chalana. That's it. Hukam. Whatever is happening, just as you said, whatever is happening is his will. If you can accept that and not be adversarial, we enjoy complaining so much, finding faults so much. Look what happens to the human mind. Let's say that I want to point a finger at you. Now look at my hand, what's happening here? Just look at my hands. Can somebody see what's the difference? When I point a finger at you, what I'm doing to myself? Actually, I'm sending one toward you and the three are toward me. Just in the effort to point one fault at you, I have actually pointed three faults at myself. But the trick of the mind is I will still focus on the finger that's outside, not the three that's turning toward me. The day the eye goes to these three fingers, you will have taken the first step toward the spirituality. You will start seeing your faults rather than somebody else's fault. Your wrong is but somebody else's wrong. It's a beautiful thing. There's a parable in Buddha's life that somebody comes and actually is so annoyed by him, spits at him. And he is quiet, the rest of the surroundings are totally agitated and they want to at least ask this guy why you did what you did. And Buddha stops. Say, don't do that. Now, this is not a saintly thing he's doing. He's trying to communicate a message. He says, look, this action must have had, he's not saying it has it. He says it must have had a past. And the action has been responded back to. The cycle is complete. Don't start another cycle by now going and doing something else. Just drop. Whatever has happened must have. He just accepts it. He doesn't know whether there was. Kabir says, अपने कर्म की गत मैं क्या जानूं? मैं क्या जानूं बाबा रे? He says, whatever action I'm doing, how do I know what is this result going to be? How do I know? Well, that's a very stupid thing to say. Don't you know what your action and the reaction would be? And the answer is no. We really don't. There are some action, the immediate reaction comes. There are some action, the immediate reaction is not available. Think of a seed that you plant on the back. Does the fruit come right away? Does the flower come right away? Doesn't every seed need some time to get to the fruition? Similarly, each action takes some time. As a matter of fact, some actions are such. Some desires. Desire is an action. I want to be the President of the United States. Now, that's my desire. I might die just being a little consultant and never get there. But that desire remains. Seed has been planted. When will I get to that stage is not known to me. It's silly. You know, and there are multiple stories that when the person is ready to pass on to the other dimension, you do not try to do something that create any desire in it. We start chanting the mantras or something else, but we don't do an act. We don't cook anything. Maybe a smell will create a desire. And there are stories like that. Somebody smelled the meat and one ended up being in an animal life, or etc., etc. But whether it is there or not, that's not the point. The point is that you want to focus the mind and the total energy on an essence which is beyond you. Every action is going to have a reaction. So Buddha stopped there and said, if he did this, there must have been a past to this. Now drop. Meaning, accept the way it is. Now the beautiful thing is, when he did this thing, this guy went home, he couldn't sleep all night, he came back next day to apologize. And now Buddha is not ready to fall into that trap also. He said, well, who are you apologizing from? I came here yesterday in the presence of so many people and I spit at you. So, you didn't come. And you didn't spit at me. And now he's baffled. Is there anything in nature that is still? And he gave the famous quotation, you cannot step into the running water twice. Since that moment to this moment, how much has changed? I am not the same person. You are not the same person. Why not? He says, well, when you wanted to spit, what were the feelings, emotions, energies in you? Were you the same person then? If the emotions which are now, which are apologetic, if they were there then, would you be spitting? That tells me you have changed. So how can, similarly, I have changed. So what is there to apologize and what is there to forgive? Total acceptance. And Nanak says in a different way, says, anything that's going on, if you can remind yourself that it has a reason and not get disturbed, complaining or angry or sad or happy or whatever, you will start getting closer to them. But we have a reaction to everything. Hence, this becomes a never-ending chain. Spaghetti ban jati hai ki chip lo, the whole thing keeps on coming back. You can never cut the damn thing. You have to find a knife to chip it. That's the story of life.
To start with, mentioning that bird is respectable and he created to not respect. In my opinion, bird is not respectable. In the sense that the bird that what we see is a physical form. But the something to do with knowledge. So it is nothing but a part and parcel of he who is a more. Because if Krishna, the God, when he got into the form of Krishna, his body was destroyed. So what he is destroying is actually the physical form, the manifestation of matter. So there is nothing like a destruction of non-destruction. Everything is non-destruction.
If you want to look from that perspective, when you experientially achieve that state, then those statements would not be meaningful. These statements are describing a state when that experience of oneness is yet not completely realized. See, his last statement is Tumre Bhagat Kate Jam Phasa Bhagat Het Gave Ravidasa. He is still on that path. He has not gone to the ultimate. He is describing that state. I'm not saying that he's not, I'm saying that he's describing the state of a Jagyasu who has not actually realized that the same energy runs in the more and the once you realize it, you're absolutely right. The model that I described, which says this primordial force is actually breaking itself into parts. And asking that means, if you take the gold and you make a necklace, or you make a bangle, or you make a ring, or you make earrings, doesn't matter. The gold is gold, but they all have different purpose. They all have different shapes, different identifications. Till this melts back into the same nugget, it can't call itself a nugget. It will have to call itself a ring. Once it becomes a nugget, then it's back there to the source. So you are right in the sense, when it gets there, it's the same thing. Until then, the division is visible, and that division is being what. So when he's describing the division, the trap he's trying to avoid is that it may not set up, oh my God, I am somebody too. He's comparing still so that the ego does not raise the head up, ego goes down. Because it's a very paradoxical thing. If you go on a Jnana Marg, okay, Jnana Marg crystallizes the ego. It works on, I am the pure essence. I want to get. It actually crystallizes the ego. It goes the other way around. Bhakti Marg reduces the ego. It goes the opposite direction. It says, I'm nobody. You are everything. Jnana Marg says, I am that one. I need to see that one inside me. It starts with that assumption. Where Bhakti Marg goes the opposite. So that's why this seems to be paradoxical.
The other thing is regarding why we are born, why we are here. My perception is the exception that as we can have an answer that we will take comes from such thoughts. The concept that must be, we are all aware of salvation. So when the mukti comes, the so-called energy, soul, joint seed, that will never come back in the form of any physical form. But on this universe, there are so many lives, human beings, animals, seeds, creatures, and all that. All of them are living creatures like that. So there is no difference as far as life. Only we are in a different form. So we have some intellectual expressive, and we have visual certain things, tigers as something, and animals as human beings as creatures. In all of them, they have the same life. Once they attain the physical form, they lose certain things. But the concept really wrong. Of all the lives, human life is supposed to be the highest life in the sense of reaching close compared to the other. So we are not complete, free from all Maya and universe, we're still coming again and again. It's starting from the low creatures to the highest human being. Human being is supposed to be good. It has a chance to rectify and realize realization. And once in the soul has the realization, it joins in that So while we are here, because probably our souls are not being completely free from all these things. But when it comes to the first step from being, it is pure, no condition, no commitments. I don't know when we start all these commitments and all these things, but assuming that the soul has become, is not purified, is not perfected, then it teaches me that all of that.
Let me share with you to build on your thoughts. When we go to see a movie, the director, the producer, the story writer, the person who writes the script ends up creating some characters and gives them some definitions. There's one person creating all of those and literally writing the dialogues and putting it in their mouth, right? The actors and the actresses, they do not speak themselves at that moment. They have a written script given to them. When the writer wrote the script for a villain and the villain played the role as written by the director, is he responsible for committing all those heinous actions? But
No.
okay, now project that to the ultimate creator. If I am given a role and I am playing that role the way I am given, what freedom I am seeking and from what?
There is difference in terms of acting. He has been hired, has been asked to do something.
But didn't we just say that we became part of it, okay, and the soul is part of that, is the same thread running into just building that model. I'm just running with that model and saying, if I am that essence, and that essence has a body of a bird or a body of a male or a body of a mountain, and a mountain is playing the role of stability, and the bird is playing the role of this, and the human is playing a role of that, where is the karma? Where is the nirvana? Where is the need for it? And I go back to my earlier statement. Hukam razai chalana, accept. Because you are a part, you will never know what is the whole and what is its purpose. Stop. Just accept. And practice that acceptance. More you get closer to that acceptance, more you get closer to the Creator. Because be solved, will it be a mystery? A puzzle can be solved, a mathematical problem can be solved, a riddle can be solved, but a mystery cannot be solved. It can only be just delved into and slowly you drop and the mystery remains. Life is a mystery. That's why we call these things mystics. That's where the word mystic came from. So, if it is a mystery, it's going to remain a mystery, you accept. And so now we come to the next question. Once you are in life, what should you be doing? Well, hukam razai chala.
This life is a journey of a man or a human being or the soul. I think it is a journey of the soul, not of the human being.
Yeah. The what we see outside is a shell. That's all. And as very eloquently was pointed out, whether it's a bird or a fish or an animal or whatever, these are different shells. But you're right, it's basically the essence in it whether you want to call it a soul, whether you want to call it an entity, whether you want to call it a God. You pick your name, whatever you are comfortable with, but you are absolutely right. It is not the journey of this body. This body might be traveling from Colorado Springs to Los Angeles, that's about it. It doesn't have a lot more purpose than that. And then get late and make the 40 people sit. And I feel so humble. This is the first time in my life anybody has waited for me that long. Usually I'm ahead of everybody. Any other?
Like when you're praying that you still have that in mind. Like as the first step, you were told that you are somebody and I haven't crossed that stage. You have all that also, when you just go there to sit, just come for you. Even there you have.
Still have that.
So I don't have. So there is actually nothing like when you say you pray or do or achakaram, durakaram, none of these. Right, like and even that when you have reached the stage or whatever, like when you that blissfulness or anything, when you think of that, in order to reach the blissfulness, you have to go. There is a way to do that. There is nothing like blissfulness also, right? Like you are just playing with the park. It is a play.
But doesn't the process give you anything?
Then what is this? It thinks of that I should do something.
Well, no, let me ask you two questions here to clarify for myself. While you are in the process, what is the inner state of being? Is there no peace, quiet, blissfulness, or any feeling of something other than? Is it still the same agitation?
Yeah, like still the same thing, okay. Right? You are seeking. You are not part of him or whatever.
Okay, now think about this way. I remember we were way back talking of the habit and the mind training. If you look at the word habit, it is spelled as H-A-B-I-T. And I remember one of my professors wrote it on the blackboard, habit. And then he followed it by words, remains. Habit remains. And he said, well, try to improve it by about 20%. So he took a chalk and dropped the word H. So now it's reading a bit remains. So he said, well, persevere and go another 20%, and he dropped A, and so it reads bit remains. And then he says, well, now you are still pursuing, now you are 60% of the way. He dropped B, and it reads it remains. And he says, now if I cross I also, only T is left, and that's single. When is the person alone? When it's 6 feet under the ground. The purpose of the parable is, the mind is used to certain fixed behavior patterns. Till that pattern is broken, those of you who write computer programs, it goes into loop. Till you cut that loop and drain all the storage memory. That's what Krishnamurti kept on saying. Stop using everything through the memory. Don't see that painting out of the memory. And people didn't understand what he's saying. If I'm looking at a dog, how do I not look at the dog or the memory? Because my mother, when I was a kid, told me this is something that looks like it's a dog. Hence that memory got stored in. Every time I see that type of a creature, it is a dog. And Krishnamurti is saying, stop seeing through the memory. When we are doing a puja, a path, or a arti, or whatever, we are doing through the memory. Hence, it gives us no bliss. And we feel cheated. You have to continue until the memory loop breaks. Till it is not, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It is that pattern that has established that deep. It may happen tomorrow, next life, who knows?
There was this Jagyasu, a bhikshu, who wanted to take the permission from the master and now go spread the word. It was evening like this, it was a little cold, quite dark night. And he had spent most of his life within the compound of the ashram, doing the meditation and learning what the master was teaching him. Was not familiar with the territory of the outside, and when he got ready to move out, suddenly looked outside and it's all darkness. And he has no clue as to what he's going to face. Didn't know any places, didn't know any shortcuts, didn't know what the routes are, what he's going to face, what he's going to find. Pitch dark. And he gets back to the master and says, well, it's too dark out there. What am I going to do? So what do you mean what I'm going to do? He said, I can't find the path. I can't see anything. Oh, are you talking about that darkness out there? Yeah. Well, that's a simple problem to solve. So he went inside, brought a candle, lit the candle, and gave it to him. Said, hold this. Good, now I can see where I'm going. As soon as he stepped out, he thought that he was bowing before the master to take a permission to walk, and as soon as he stepped backward, the master blew the candle away. Not only that, he struck the hand and the candle fell down. So the disciple said, wait a minute, what did you do this for? So what did I do? Well, you blew the candle off. You just gave it to me. He says, I didn't give you the candle to take it with you on the journey. I gave you a candle to give you the last lesson. Unless until you can be light unto yourself, you cannot go out and give light to anybody else. No outer light will help you to go do what you wanted to do. You have to have that light inside first. And if there is a darkness inside, then you have started on the path prematurely. Come back. Nobody can be light to anybody else. Buddha used to say, Aap Deepak Bhava. Nobody could understand, what do you mean Aap Deepak Bhava? And what he was trying to say. So the master sits the disciple down and said, wait, you think I blew the candle away? What is the guarantee as soon as you got few yards from here and the wind blows the candle away? Then what are you going to do? You're depending on the wrong tool. The journey is supposed to be inward and you are focused still on the outward. The light needs to be inside. It has nothing to do what is the environment outside. Now why do you want the light? Well, that comes from the fear of the unknown. Why do I want to see where I'm going? Why do I need the light? Because I want to see what is, so that I can predict what is out there. Now why do I want to predict? Because I'm afraid of something. The bottom line is there is a fear. And if there is a fear on the journey of mysticism and spirituality, of anything, then this subject is not for you. Then this evening is not for you. This topic is not for you. Because the first thing is, when you are going to get on this journey, when you are going to get on this type of inquiry, when you're going to question these kind of things, you must first be ready to accept the answers that will come back to you as they are. A scientist who goes to the laboratory and pures few chemicals together and finds a totally different compound than he was actually intended to get. And if he throws that away because it did not bring the result that he was expecting or she was expecting, then he's not a scientist. No experiment is a failure. You have to record the data, whether it is supporting your thesis or not supporting your thesis. You must accept the data with the same quality of reverence and same quality of acceptance. You can't be saying, I will record the data if it says this one, otherwise I'll discard it. It is even more true in the world of mysticism. When you make an inquiry and you look inside, and the answer comes back which does not agree with your self-image. What is my self-image? We all want to be perceived by others as the gift of God to the humanity. Don't we? Every one of us wants to be the center of the universe. The world revolves around us. Where did we get this idea from? Right when I was a little kid. And the first time I cried, the whole world around me ran to my support. The baby is crying. Why the baby is crying? The parents, the grandparents, the neighbors, it doesn't matter, a stranger going by. If there's nobody around the child, the stranger will stop and say, why the child is crying? And since a single cry made me the center of that moment, I have been carrying this memory with me. I am the center of the universe. And I want to be perceived as such. And I want to be treated as such. Now this is okay as far as the outer world goes, and you can play that game all your life if that's what is your game. But if the game is the spiritual inquiry, if the game is to discover yourself, the meaning of what you are, why you are, where you are now, and where you would be, if those are the inquiries and you are sincerely seeking the answers to those inquiries, you have to accept the answer that comes back from within. And I guarantee you that you're not going to like the answer. Because the very first answer is going to come back, you are not the center of the universe. Those answers hit at the core of the existence. Now last sitting together about a month ago, we were inquiring into the total purpose of existence. Does anybody know why it is the way it is? Is there any answer in the scriptures? Those who have gone ahead of us on that path. And we looked at it from a metaphysical perspective, a spiritual perspective, because the question was, and actually later on when we discussed, we found out that I was explaining from a totally different dimension, and the question was from a totally different dimension. The question was more to do with the day-to-day life, and I had gone back to the world when the life was not even there. And coincidentally, it so happened that Gopalji, who raised the question, he himself was absent. And today he is present, so I would briefly review that. This is our, as Perry pointed out, as we all know, would be the, not only that it is the last get-together of the year, we have been at this journey for about a year now. We started this about a year back, and we've been meeting once a month. And my objective was today also to review and seek the counsel of all of you, the input and see if the format, the content, etc., and where we want to go, if at all. If we are tired, we can stop. If we are exhilarated, we can run faster. If we are comfortable with the pace, we can continue at the same pace. But it's all... The fact that I am sitting here does not mean zilch. Nada, zero, nothing. My favorite simile is that when I was in the primary school, I noticed that the student who made the most noise and was useless for every other purpose, the teacher will give him and say, "You are the monitor. Keep everybody quiet." Because he was the most noisy one. So since he now has to keep the other quiet, he had to shut off himself first. That was the perfect solution. And I realized that's what all of you have done, and you put me here and say, at least he will be under control if anybody else. So that's all my objective here is. My purpose is not more than that. There is no master here, there is no guru here, there is nothing to give or take. It is to exchange and be each other's sport on the spiritual journey. I want to remind you, this is not for the faint of heart. Because so far we've been skimming the surface. And our objective is that if we want to get it, we're going to start getting deeper into the core of our being. And we're going to start digging inside. And some of the things we are going to dig out are not going to be pleasant. Why not? Earlier today we were having some conversation and a topic came up. And it actually, Kabirji says in one of his doha, he says, "Kabira, मन जानत सब बात, जानत ही अवगन करे, काहे की कुशलात, हाथ दीपक कुएं परे." He says that it is a myth that the humans are going through the life without knowing what they are doing. He says that's absolutely a myth. It's a cop-out. Kabira man janat sab baat. He says every human entity knows what's going on. So then what happens? He says janat hi avagan kare. Now normally we translate avagun into something that the society calls it bad. Social circle calls it bad. And he says avagun. He is not actually talking of the social. And that's where the discussion took off. We normally say, whatever we want to do, there is a little voice inside which tells us this is right or this is not right. And that is the voice of the higher self. I'm going to provoke you today a little bit. That if that voice is of the highest being, you want to call it God, you want to call it Rama, you want to call it Krishna, you want to call it Allah, it doesn't matter to me. If what little voice inside says, this is not right, and this voice is of the highest being, would this voice be different for different people? Right? It cannot be. God could not be telling me to be okay, go, you are alright, you are forgiven, you can do this, and no, you can't do that. Let's take an example, rather than me being esoteric about it. Killing is bad. Okay, killing is bad. So when you want to go to murder somebody, some voice comes and says, this is not the right thing to do. Okay. So inner voice said, killing is bad. Now assume that I passed the IAS examination, I am certainly appointed as a magistrate. And I now have a case in front of me where I have to give somebody the decision of death punishment. Is killing okay now? Okay, now that's a little bit, maybe a little bit more difficult. Let's see that I'm serving in the army. And my captain says it is okay to kill across the border because that one doesn't look like you. Is killing okay now? What happened to the God who said killing is not okay? Where did that God go? Why isn't that voice somewhere being heard by that magistrate or by that captain or by that president or by that king? Killing is not okay. So, killing is not okay. Is this the voice of God, or is this the voice of the society, the culture of that time and space? I submit to you that you want to inquire that within yourself. Kabira is talking about that voice which is beyond what we have learned and internalized as this is not good. Lying is not good. So when I try to tell a lie, thou shalt not lie, lying is not good. Can you find a few examples in the history where lying was good? You don't need to go too far. You can look into Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana. You can look into Bible. You can look into Quran. There will be incidents, stories, examples where the lying is good. What happened to God then? Is it a matter of convenience that I can lie when I want to and I lie not when I don't want to? Then who's making this rule? Is it God making that rule? No, the rules are necessary, important to run a culture, to run a life in the outer world. Socio, cultural, political and economic. Those four dimensions need these rules and regulations. I am not against them. That's not what I'm trying to say to you, that break all the laws and go do what you want to do. What I'm trying to tell you is that in the world of spirituality, you will need to make that distinction. Apak Deepak Baho. अपना दीपक खुद बनना पाएगा और अंदर जो चाहती मारनी पड़ेगी, that will be totally different. And that's what Kabir says, मन जानत सब बात जानत ही अवगन करे. That is the avgan, the one that the creator. What is the avgan in the mind of the creator? And that's where this topic we left last time. We looked at 5 different examples of the models which explained why this creation came into existence, and we discussed it a little bit in detail. I don't want to repeat because that will be unfair to those who attended that. But we dropped it here and the question remained, well, what happens in this life then? In this dimension? Is there a purpose in this dimension? And the answer is yes. The existence is with respect to each other. If one is, all of the ills, and the most prime ill in the human mind is that I am the center of the universe. I am that I am. I am the God. And I should be treated as such. Now where does this I come from? Now, imagine being trapped in the desert. And for miles and miles and miles around, there is not a single human being. There is not even a tree. Who would you tell that I have become a billionaire in my own lifetime? I am the Bill Gates. Would it mean anything to the desert? Who would you say, I am the wisest man born on this planet? Who would care? the I is identified with respect to the other. Otherwise, I has no significance. In the absence of the other, the I dies. It becomes irrelevant. If you are in a jungle, let's forget about the desert, and there is a tree out there, a beautiful tree with a flower and colors and the wind blowing through, and you are enjoying its company, could you tell the tree that I'm a Chaturvedi? 4 वेदों को जानता हूं, पाठ कर सकता हूं, ट्रांसलेशन कर सकता हूं, बता सकता हूं? Would that tree care? Would that bird care? Would that animal care? Okay, now bring it down to this world. If I am deaf and dumb and mute, and you sit next to me and tell me I am the most accomplished musician of my lifetime, would it matter to me? Who would you be to me? What would I care? I have no clue. So the I, quote unquote, the ego, exists in each of the human entity with respect to the other. So what is the objective in this life? Why are we all here? What can be the objective of the Creator? The day the human entity looks at another human entity with the same loving, caring, compassionate way and say, you are His image, I am His image. The day you learn that, you have learned the objective of life on this planet. And that's what the love, that's the root of the love. And that's why Jesus' famous saying became, love is God and God is love. He did not have any other saying. What should I do? Learn to love. Love the other. Now, the question is, well, can I love everybody equally? The answer is, what do you think? Can you? Let me give you a hint. If you can't, you haven't learned the lesson. The fact that the water is in a glass, or water is in a pitcher, or water is in a jug, does not mean that water is no more water. It has just taken the shape of that vessel in which it is there. The entity has taken the vessel. It could be a masculine vessel, it could be a feminine vessel, it could be a dark vessel, it could be a light vessel. It is just a vessel. It's just a container. So what is the importance of the container then? And therein lies the basic misunderstanding of human existence. The importance has been given to the container, not the content. And therein lies the problem. The whole of the emphasis is on the container. I am an Indian, I am an American, I have a label. I am a man, I am a woman, I have a label. I am dark, I am white, I have a label. I am a son, I am a father, I have a label. The importance has become of the labels rather than what is the content. So what is the content then? The fact that the gold nugget turned into a bracelet or a necklace or an earring did not take the fact away that it is still a gold. The fact the entity, if we are starting with the assumption that the Creator exists in all of us. Simply to say, कन कन में भगवान, कमाल हो गया. कन कन में भगवान. कन कन में भगवान की बात तो छोड़ो, आप पति पत्नी को नहीं नजर आता भगवान, और पत्नी में पति को नजर नहीं आता भगवान, कन कन में भगवान जरूर. कमाल हो गई. You find somebody with a long saffron robe, with a long beard and dressed up, you are ready to do Shashtang. Suddenly उसमें भगवान नजर आ जाता है. साधु जी महाराज आ गए, वो फिर हमको नचाते हैं. ऐसे हमारी सेवा करो, इतने हमें पैसे दो, हमारा वहां पे मंदिर है, वहां पे हमने अस्पताल खोला है, वहां पे हमने स्कूल खोला है, लाओ पैसे लाओ. उसमें भगवान नजर आ गया. पास बैठे बच्चे के अंदर भगवान नजर नहीं आया. क्या वो कहां से आया? They realize the problem. The day the entity, that's why I don't call it a soul, I don't call it a God, because these are all loaded terms. The day the entity learns that the basic content in each and individual is exactly the same, it has only different container, suddenly वो जो कुत्ता घर में रखा है उसका कुछ मतलब और हो जाएगा. वो जो तोता है वो कुछ और बन जाएगा. जो इंसान है, जो बच्चा है, जो बीवी है, अगर उसमें भगवान है और वो नजर आने लगा है, how can then you be indifferent to that individual? How can that to be cruel to that individual? How can that to be having your cheating heart? हमने तो गाने लिख दिए, your cheating heart. How can I see that? अगर उसमें भगवान नजर आ गया तो बाकी सब कुछ. देखिए, कबीर says that there is, I have no enemy, and in my eyes there is no bad. आपने सुना है ना? अव्वल अल्लाह, नूर उपाया, कुदरत के सब बंदे, एक नूर ते सब जब उपजया, कौन भले को मंदे. So this is Kabir. Do you know that in the life of Kabir, he was attempted to be killed 5 times by the king himself. कभी उसको बांध के हाथी के सामने फेंक दिया, कभी उसको बांध के दरिया में फेंक दिया, संगलों में बांध के डूब जाए ये नदी में. बनारस के किनारे रहता. Now look at the difference. The entire clergy of Kabir's time was actually his enemy, because he was destroying the entire infrastructure. बनारस के हिंदू के पीछे भी था वो, काजी के, मक्के के काजी के पीछे भी था वो किसी को नहीं थे. सभी को यह है, तुम क्या कर रहे हो, क्यों दुनिया को ऐसा बेवकूफ बना रखा है, खुदा को, भगवान को ये क्या कर दिया तुमने. And they were all his enemies. Yet he says, I have no enemy. So what has happened here? From the outer world, yes, the enemies are there. But what is he saying? Okay, ये दुश्मनी किसके साथ कर रहे हैं? जो मैं बन गया हूं, राम कबीरा एक भय हैं, ज्यों पानी संग पानी. मतलब दुश्मनी तो ये शरीर के साथ कर रहे हैं, कंटेनर के साथ कर रहे हैं. कंटेंट तो कुछ और बन गया. So if they want to kill, they are killing who? They are killing the body. This is precisely what happened in the life of the 5th master of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the 5th master. 5th Guru went through precisely the same experience. And in Lahore, he was made to sit on a hot plate and the burning sand was poured in his head, and then after that his entire body was boiled in water. And the Sufi fakir of that time, Sheikh Mian Mir, came yelling and said, "Why are you letting this drama continue? If you don't want to do something, tell me. I'll deal with these guys." And said, "Stop. Of all the people, you should know this is game of the outer. Let them have fun. They are playing with the container. The content is untouched. Content is the essence. Content is the gold. They are only worried about the little box in which that gold is being kept. And let them destroy it. Let them have, because they have no clue. This is precisely what Jesus said. "O my Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." What does that mean? The journey is inner. Its laws are not the same as we are experienced to know on the outer side. And unless until we are ready to face our own self, our own fear, then if we have no fear of within ourselves, fear of the unknown, we would not look for the light from somebody else. And when we start turning the torch inside, there's a beautiful parable I would like to share with you. Hassan was a Sufi saint, and there was a female saint by the name Lullaby, and they both used to meditate together. And Hassan used to ask Lullaby, "Let's go Hajj. Let's go for a Hajj," because in each Muslim's life, at least once a life they must visit if they want to complete this life. That's their belief system. You must go to Makkah, Medina. And it so happened that a few people were going to Hajj to Makkah, and the night fell, and they put their tent right outside the hut where Hussein and Lullaby used to meditate. And they have mashals, the mashal, the light, and that mashal was stuck on the outside of the tent. And Hassan was still sitting inside, and Lullaby came out and started looking around on the ground as if she's trying to find something. Naturally, the people gathered around her. "Kya dhoond rahe hain? Kya dhoond rahe hain? Kya dhoond rahe hain?" And she said, "Oh, I just lost a needle here." "You lost a needle? How did you lose the needle?" "Oh, my robe was torn off and I was stitching it." "Well, we didn't see you stitching the robe. Where were you stitching the robe?" "Oh no, I was stitching the robe in my hut." "Oh? So the needle must have fallen in the hut. Why are you looking here?" "Oh no, I'm a poor woman." In the time Hassan also came out. खूब शोर मच रहा है बाहर, वो पागलों जैसी बातें कर रही है. It is too much dark. I'm a poor lady. I can't buy the light, and you have a light right here. So to look for something which is lost, I need the light. So I came where the light is. And now Hassan also got going to say, "Lullaby, जहां पे चीज गुम हो वहां ढूंढी जाती है, बाहर कैसे ढूंढ लोगे?" And she smiled. She said, "Hassan, what have you been trying to do?" Where he is, there's darkness. He's in your heart. There's no light there, hence you don't want to look at it. Where he is not, which is Makkah, But there is light out there, you want to go find him there. Isn't that what you've been asking me doing all your life? Let's go to Makkah. Let's go to Makkah. What is there in Makkah? Of course there's light there. You can see a symbol there. But is it where Allah lives? No, Allah lives in the heart. But you refuse to look inside the heart because it's all dark there. You are not going to find him there. Whole of the world is doing that. So if you are going to go on the journey of spirituality, you are going to have to turn inward. And the first thing that you're going to find is extreme darkness. And you're going to run scared. And you're going to see something and you're going to say, this is not what I like. This is not my image. When I look in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the prettiest of all, and the mirror always says, you are the one. Right? When we go to the photographer, we tell him, this side profile is much better, so come on, take the picture from this side. Right? We want to hide the one. This is not. That's our desire. That's our image of ourselves, and we maintain it with all possible devices known to the mankind. On the spiritual journey, you're going to have to drop that pretense. And suddenly, you will find a change, a revolution inside you. And you will start loving the rascal that you are. You'll fall in love with that rascal. Right now, you're trying to fall in love with the God which you are not. When you get on the path, you will see the rascal in you, and you will start accepting the rascal in you, and there will be a miracle. You know what that miracle would be? Then every rascal outside will also, you start loving them, because न मैं खुदा हूं न तेरा इश्क फरिश्तों जैसा, जब दोनों इंसान हैं तो क्यों इतने हिजाबों से मिले? पता लग जाएगा. ना मैं खुदा हूं ना तेरा इश्क फरिश्तों जैसा, जब दोनों इंसान हैं तो क्यों इतने हिजाबों से मिले? When that pretense is dropped, you suddenly start developing the love, that compassion, that feeling that there may be a little bit of degree, but we are basically the same. We are on the journey, we are on that path to rediscover our inner self, that inner being. And on that, between you and your God, there is no attorney, there is no witness, there is no defense, there is no prosecution, there is no executioner. You are it. And slowly the pretense starts dropping. When the pretension starts dropping, the love starts coming up, it starts rising up. If you cannot see the God within your own self, believe me, you cannot see the God in anybody else. This is the first myth that has been created for the human being. We all run to a guru, to a master, the latest avatar that comes around, and we run. And then we go there, and what do we tell? Well, arthritis बहुत गहरा हो गया, कोई इसका इलाज बताएंगे, जरा आशीर्वाद दे दो ना. अभी तो सिर्फ चीफ मिनिस्टर ही बना हूं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनना चाहता हूं, जरा थोड़ी सी आशीर्वाद दे दो, इलाज कर दो. बिजनेस थोड़ा सा घाटे में जा रहा है, कुछ मेहर हो जाए. अभी सिर्फ दिमाग में थोड़ी सी खुजली है, अभी अर्जेंसी आई नहीं. फरीद के पास एक नौजवान चला गया, कहने लगा मुझे भक्ति करनी सिखाओ. कहने भक्ति करने का कौन सा कोई टेक्निक है? अगर भक्ति करने को मन चाहता है तो मेरे पास आने की क्या जरूरत थी, भक्ति करो. कहता नहीं जी आती नहीं. कहने लगा मैं दरिया पे नहाने के लिए, चलो मेरे साथ चलो. So he took him to the river. No, he was a very strong, healthy, hefty, 6 foot, very strong man. This young boy who's gone there to learn the technique of meditation, as soon as he got into the river, freeze got on his shoulder and stuck his head into the water. Now he's trying to shake him off, but he's too strong, he can't let him go. And this guy is suddenly, oh my God, आया था भक्ति सीखने, ये तो जान लेने बैठा, ये कैसे संत ऐसे होते हैं, यह क्या मुसीबत मुझे ले ली. Anyway, with one way or the other, he mustered the entire energy and threw Farid off the shoulder and came up and said, what kind of joke is this? I said, this is no joke. Tell me what was going through your mind when I was sitting on top of your shoulders. So what do you mean? What kind of a question is this? He said, no, I'm asking you, were you feeling hungry? No. I was worried about my life. Where is the hunger? What are you thinking of your wife? No. What were you thinking of? Just one thing. Just one thing. How to survive. He says, unless until that is the level of emergency in you, how to get there, and everything else dropped, you're wasting your time. और भक्ति क्या होती है? Everything else is insignificant, unnecessary. No else baggage is required. Kabir says, कि पाप पुण्य दोए बैल बसाहे, पवन पूंजी पर गास्यो, ऐसा नायक, ऐसा खसम नायक हमारा, सगल संसार यो बंजारा. तेरा हर इंसान को एक गड़िया दे दिया है. एक गाड़ी है, उसके 2 बैल चाहिए. तो हमारे राम ने क्या खेल बनाया है, हर इंसान को एक गधा देकर 2 बैल दे दिए हैं. एक बैल का नाम पुण्य है, एक बैल का नाम पाप है. और श्वासों की साह, द ब्रेथ, एनर्जी, उसको ये उसकी इन्वेस्टमेंट पूंजी बन गई, रास बन गई है. तो क्या हो रहा है? कहता टोटल संसार जो है वो धंधा करने के लिए यहां भेज दिया. तो इंसान क्या कर रहा है? कहते कुछ श्वास जो है उसने पाप के बैल को दे दिए, कुछ श्वास जो है उसने पुण्य के बैल को दे दिए. तो जिंदगी गुजर रही है. इंसान सोच रहा है कि मैं ठीक चल रहा हूं, उसी का दिया सब कुछ है. कहते पर एक मजे की बात देखिए, कहते जब वो वापस चला जहां से चला था उसकी तरफ, तो एक अचंबा हो गया. क्या? कहते कहत कबीर सुनो रे संतो, अब ऐसी बन आई, घाटी चढ़त बैल एक थाका. कहते उस तरफ की जब चढ़ाई चढ़ने लगे, तो जो पाप का बैल था वो कहने लगा, भाई मेरा तो संबंध तेरे साथ यहां तक था, मैं आगे नहीं जा सकता. अब गाड़ी से एक बैल छूट गया. अब गाड़ी चलती है, अकेला बैल को खींच ही नहीं सकता. ऊपर वाला बैल पहले ही कमजोर था, भौतिक शक्ति तो उसको दूसरे को दे रखी थी. तो कहते अब क्या करूं? तो कहते किसी महापुरुष ने कहा, वो पागले, ये जो पुण्य का बैल है ये इतना वजन नहीं खींच सकता. तो अगर चढ़ाई चढ़नी हो तो क्या किया जाता है? अब तो जो भार है, वजन है, हल्का करना पड़ेगा. कहत कबीर सुनो रे संतो, अब ऐसी बने आई, घाटी चढ़त बैल एक थाका, चलो गोंड चिटकाई. कहता वो जो बहुत सारे वजन, किसका? आशाओं का. कहता वो आशाओं की जो गड़ी है उसको उतार के फेंक दे, ताकि एक बैल तेरे को आगे ले चले. बावल नाम की एक छोटी सी सोसाइटी है. वो फकीर जो हैं, उनकी एक गाथा पढ़ रहा था मैं. कि एक फकीर ने अपने पास सिर्फ 2 लंगोटी रखी। एक लंगोटी से वो नहा के तो पह लेता और दूसरी को और भक्ति करता। तो कहानी कहती है, ब्यूटीफुल पैराबल, कि वो लंगोटी दूसरी उसने साथ ले ली और भगवान के यहां मंदिर है पहाड़ के ऊपर, उनका विश्वास है कि यहां पे भगवान रहते हैं, सो उस मंदिर की तरफ चलने लगा। तो एक लंगोटी पास रखी हुई है कि भगवान के मंदिर में एंटर करने के लिए पहले नहाना तो चाहिए ना, अपवित्र शरीर लेके कैसे चला जाऊंगा। तो वो पहाड़ी के नीचे पहुंचा जहां मंदिर है, नीचे पहाड़ी से उसने स्नान किया, अपनी धोती बदली, दूसरी धोती उसके हाथ में है, मंदिर के दरबान पे गया तो दरबान ने रोक दिया, ठहरो, तुम आगे नहीं जा सकते। कहने लगे क्यों? कहते अंदर सिर्फ वही जा सकता है जिसके पास कुछ नहीं। कहने लगे मैंने तो कुछ बचाया ही नहीं, मेरे पास क्या है? कहने लगे तेरे पास ये धोती है। कहते भाई ये धोती तो मैंने अपने लिए तो रखी ही नहीं, ये तो सिर्फ इसलिए रखी थी कि भगवान के मंदिर में बिना स्नान किए अपवित्र कैसे चला जाऊं। वो कहने लगा अब तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं जा सकते। वो बैठ के रोने लगा, अब इतनी यात्रा कर चुका हूं, ना पीछे का रह गया, आगे तुम जाने नहीं देते, अब क्या होगा? तो दरबान उसके कहने लगा तुम अभी तक समझे नहीं, ये धोती तेरे को नहीं रोक रही है, अगर ये धोती ही होती तो तू जरूर चला जाता। इस धोती को नहीं रोक रहा हूं मैं, इसके पीछे जो तेरी मैं छुपी है, मैं भगवान के दर पे अपवित्र कैसे चला जाऊं। तू नहीं जा रहा है, तेरी पवित्रता जा रही है, वहां नहीं जा सकता। भगवान को कोई पवित्र और अपवित्र लगता है? अगर पवित्र भगवान ने बनाया तो अपवित्र क्या शैतान ने बनाया है? इफ द सेंट is protected by him, who protects the sinner? Is there another one? ये जिज्ञासु की, भक्ति मार्ग पे चलने वाले की ईगो इतनी सूक्ष्म हो जाती है उसको पता ही नहीं चलता। वो अपने आप कितनी इनोसेंट बात कर रहा है कि मैं तो नवाने के लिए धोती लेके आ रहा हूं, कम से कम भगवान के मंदिर में तैयार होके जाओ। तैयार होकर तू जाएगा, तेरे को पता है पवित्र होता क्या है? पवित्रता की डेफिनेशन तूने समझ ली। तू भगवान को सिखाने जाएगा कि पवित्र क्या होता है। जो गंगा में स्नान कर ले वो, गंगा तो जितनी दूर चलती गई तो उतनी मैली होती गई, क्या गंगा को उसने सुखा दिया? ये भी तेरी अपनी ही सूक्ष्म ईगो है। तेरा भगवान भी जो है, तेरा मंदिर भी तेरी एक्सटेंशन है मन की। भगवान का मंदिर नहीं रह गया, वो तेरा मंदिर बन गया। हम जब मंदिर, मस्जिद, गुरुद्वारा जाते हैं तो क्या लेके जाते हैं? हम भक्त जो है उसकी दुकान जो है, उसका घर जो है वो मंदिर बन जाता है। मेरे जैसा जब जाता है तो वहां गुरुद्वारा भी दुकान बन जाता है। जो भगत है उसका घर गुरुद्वारा बन जाता है। जो मेरे जैसा है उसके लिए गुरुद्वारा भी घर बन जाता है। वो वहां भी अपना संसार ले जाता है, साथ ईगो साथ ले जाता है। जब तक वो आइडेंटिटी रहेगी आप प्यार नहीं सीख सकेंगे। जब तक प्यार नहीं सीख सकेंगे तब तक इस जिंदगी का मकसद क्या है नहीं समझ पाएंगे। So if you really want to understand the purpose of life, the meaning of life, just one simple thing. Just one simple. Every time you look at anything and you find the container to be different, can you go beyond the container and see the content? If you learn to see the content and keep on reminding yourself, I need to focus on the content, I need to focus on the content, you will find a certain changes coming inside you. The life of Rama. In the spiritual dimension, Shri Rama was acknowledged as 14 Kala school. And then came Krishna, and he was acknowledged as 16 Kala school. Rama was also acknowledged as Maryada Purushottam. Now, Maryada Purushottam means that whatever is written, मर्यादा जो बन चुकी है, उसको मेंटेन करना है एट एनी कॉस्ट. इसीलिए कहावत बन गई, रघुकुल रीत चढ़ा चली आए, प्राण जाए बर वचन न जाए. ये राम के जमाने में था. मर्यादा बचानी है. अगर मर्यादा को बचाने के लिए सच्चाई को कुर्बान करना पड़े तो ये कोई बहुत बड़ी कुर्बानी नहीं है. That was Ram Raj. And we know the example that no matter whether Sita is pavitra or apavitra, it does not matter. Because it is written, Sita must walk through the fire, and she was made to walk through the fire. And after that, even though she walked through the fire, she was still sent out when she was pregnant with the first child. Because that was Maryada. Sachai had no meaning at that time. That was one way. Then came Krishna. And he said, मर्यादा चाहे कुछ भी हो, सच्चाई को हर हालत में बचाना है. तो अगर झूठ बोलना पड़ जाए, अश्वत्थामा मर गया, तो जो कह दो अश्वत्थामा मर गया. झूठ बोल दो, सच्चाई बचानी है. अब अगर आप इन दोनों एग्जाम्पल्स को लो, तो सवाल मैं आपसे ये कर रहा था, कुड दिस बी द वॉइस ऑफ गॉड? Because if it is a voice of God, then it cannot change by time and convenience. God will say the same thing to everyone at all the time. And if it changes, that means it is the voice of that time and culture and society and political environment. It is not the voice of God. It's a man-made law.
You're not saying it's wrong to say that.
I'm not saying that.
What you're saying is in a different dimension.
It's a different dimension altogether. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that. I'm not saying that that's wrong or this is wrong or this is right or this. What I was trying to get to you, because normally we say, अजी अंदर आवाज तो आती है, हम सुनते नहीं. What I was trying to tell you कि अंदर से आवाज आती ही नहीं है, क्योंकि जो आवाज आ रही है वो जो संसार ने दी है वो आवाज आ रही है. जो करतार ने दी है वो आवाज तो हम बंद कर देते हैं बच्चे की पहले ही. So when you go into the meditation, that will be the first fact you will have to face. You will have to discard कि ये आवाज जो है सोसाइटी की है, ये आवाज माँ बाप की है, ये प्रोफेसर की है, ये इस कल्चर की है, ये उस कल्चर की है. You will have to be honest with your own self and discard those voices before you can hear the real voice of your own creator.
Is it possible that the two voices may say the same thing in a certain situation? For example...
Yeah, but how would you decide?
It may just happen. You may not...
Yeah, coincidentally it can happen.
Coincidentally it may happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So in this example, if you lied, that may have been... The real inner voice may have said the same.
Yes.
May have.
No question about it. I mean, it's a... But you cannot get to that finer distinction till the inner light starts lighting up a little bit. It's not a shot in the dark. It's not a random selection. See, there are a few things that when we are all parents here and some children sitting, I think the young people got bored, so they left. But if you see, when our children say, well, how do you know? Prove it to me. Normally, what's our response? I just know. I can't explain it, but I just know. That I just know, is that the inner voice?
Is that the inner voice?
That is the inner voice. When I say, I just know, I can't put my finger on it. I can't explain it. I can't put it into the words. But if you just trust me and go with me now, well, I can't fault my children. I didn't listen to my father just the same. I'm sure you have similar experiences, because the life journey teaches you at its own pace. So,
my submission is that if we accept that premise, then we teach our children not to ask questions, accept things without questioning them or without analyzing them. And that's probably not the right path to lead them to.
True, absolutely true, and that's not what I was implying. That when there's a two type of questions also. When there is a question because there is a genuine inquiry. To give you an example, when you're sitting in a class and a professor is writing on the board, and you know you caught him in some sort of a controversial, now you want to put him on the spot. So there will always be one smart kid who will stand up and say, would you explain this again? Now the professor also knows, and the child also knows, that this is just a game. He wants to catch me, and I'm going to try to shave my hide and not get caught by him, and the game starts. Because the question was asked with not the genuine desire to know. It was just asked because I wanted to assert my ego against the professor. There's a beautiful Zen story. Let me share with you, and you'll see. There is a book called The Zen Art of Archery. If any one of you who are fond of, it's a paperback book. They have written beautiful literature using the art of mechanics, motorcycle mechanics. The archery is the most famous one. Now the story goes that there was the most famous archer from England who had won all of the awards there could be won in archery, and he went to this Zen master to learn archery. So when he went to the master, and master wanted to know what you know already, so he said, okay, show me what you know. Now he was a gold medalist in all of the world's competition in art of archery. So he took the arrow, shot it, and it hits the bullseye. Master also saw it, he also saw it. He did it 3 times, every time hitting the same spot. So now he's feeling very proud that he's going to get pat on the back that there is. And the master said there's a lot of work to be done. I said, what do you mean a lot of work to be done? Didn't I hit the target? And the master says this is not the objective at all. And that shatters his complete existence. You mean sending an arrow and not hitting the target is not the object of archery? What else is the archery? And he says the day the arrow can go by itself and find its spot, you will become an archer. So he got frustrated because he's talking in riddles. He says, go away, you are not fit for being here. The day the arrow goes by itself and finds the target, you will be the archer. But he can't, a Western mind talking to an Eastern mystic can't figure it out. So he says, wait, before you don't want to take me as a disciple, I accept that, I'll go home, but at least show me experimentally as to what do you mean by this. The master took the arch, put the arrow in, and stood in front of the target. And when the arrow left the arch, it hit exactly at the same spot. And so now, this Britisher saw that event. He says, one more time. So because he had done 3 times. So he wants to see if he can do it consistently. He says, one more time. So the teacher does it exactly the same and same results. He says, one more time. And the master also knows what he's trying to say. This time, he goes close to the master, and the master is standing like this. He touches the muscle, and there is no tension in any part of the body. No muscle is tense at all. He touches all of the legs, the arms, and the master is just standing. Aha, so this is what he wants. That the muscular tension should be controlled. That's the decision he drew out of it. He went back to England. For 1 year, he practiced releasing the arrow in such a way that there is no tension. He will release the tension in the muscle so imperceptibly that the people would not notice. So after 1 year, he comes back. So he says, would you take me as a disciple now? I'm ready. He said, well, show me what you have learned. So he's releasing the arrow precisely the same way that the master himself is actually on alert. He says, well, something has happened. So he says, okay, try again. So he tries again. Now the master goes and sees that what he's doing is actually slowly he has done the gymnastics, that he's releasing the tension in the muscles. Master was trying to say the state of meditation. He learned the gymnastics. Now the biggest punishment a master can give to a teacher is to sit facing the wall and not see him. So second time he sent the arrow out, it hit the target, but the master looked at the wall and said, now go away. A disciple who has the courage to learn to deceive the master does not belong in this game. Anyway, eventually he was able to convince, the story he goes on, that the body, how do you become independent of the body? That the arrow is going through the meditative states, not through the physical states. He eventually learned and became his disciple. The reason I gave you this parable, a real life story, that there will be students, there will be sons and the daughters who will be asking the questions only to test your mental and experiential capability. Those students and those children are supposed to be told, take at my word. They don't, no matter what explanation you give, they're going to have a smart answer for you. But those who have a genuine inquiry in mind, they are ready to learn. You want to actually sit down with them. You actually want to take them on the journey and show them the path that you have traveled yourself. Again, remember, it's not somebody else's torch you want to pass on. You want to pass on your own torch.
So, to that extent, when you say that, trust me, I know it, aren't you in a sense saying, trust me, I know it, and you will probably find the same answer when you've been through a journey? Aren't you encouraging them to, in a sense, I mean,
if there is a capability that yes they will, and they are motivated enough that they will, that's where the experience of the master, the parent, comes in place. If the son is seeking the counsel and father says you'll find in your own way, and he truly was looking for that counsel, then I have failed as a father. But if he's looking for the sport only, this is a common social problem, and we say that that lady who wrote the book, the men are from Mars and Moon or wherever, and the ladies are from someplace else. Actually, that was a hypothesis that the woman just wants to share with the man the experience, and he automatically assumes that she is looking for a solution, so he starts solving. Whereas she was not interested in the solution at all. She was just looking for a listener and thought that my companion would be the best listener, but the companion is too much in a hurry, so he says, honey, do this, and he's gone. I said, wait a minute. I didn't want your solution. I'm smart enough. I could have solved it if I wanted to solve it that way. The same way, if we assume, and it's a delicate balance, and all parents know the child's basic characteristics and capability. Is this child looking for only me as a sounding board and the father be there, mother be there, but I'm going to learn by my own way? Or the child is really coming and saying, would you share me with you life experience as to when you face this, how did you solve? And there is no one perfect answer to that, because every child is unique, every parent is unique. I remember that little poster where it says the little kid is praying and say, God, I know I'm something because God makes no junk. Everybody is something, somebody. God makes no junk. But what kind of that is, each is unique in that sense. So try to put it into a single pattern and look for a single solution is bound to fail, because since the time immemorial the people have been trying to find one single answer to everything. Life is not logical. Life is dialectical. It moves randomly. It moves, but in a random fashion. So if you try to fit one thing into one pattern, you know that famous saying of George Bernard Shaw before he died, he said that by the time I found all the answers, all questions were changed.
I wanted to ask you about this issue of finding your inner self, and the kind of approach you took was that if you can find the content and not care about the container, that means you've found the contents within yourself. So that argument by itself says that you have to have someone else to test the fact that you found your own content. What if you were alone in the desert? Would you never find yourself?
You only find yourself in the desert.
So that's my question then. If I can only find that out by looking at somebody and saying, I see the content, not the container.
What I was saying, that when you're looking at somebody, don't focus on the content. On the container. Looking at me, if your eyes stop at the turban and the beard, you will never see what's inside. Right? अगर वो छोटी सी रुबाई है ना, जो बेसिक मुसीबत बन गई है कि हिंदू को मुसलमान से बू आती है, गीता को कुरान से बू आती है, इंसान का क्या होगा यार अब जब इंसान को इंसान से बू आती है? Since we have divided ourselves in you and I, he has disappeared. When you and I start getting closer and merging, the he will come back. So my hypothesis was, the purpose of life is that when you look at the container, remember the content. And suddenly your behavior toward that container will have a major change, shift. Because if you are focused on the content, if you are focused on the content, you cannot be disrespectful. You cannot be indifferent. You cannot be cruel. All of the base energy that lifts his head up from inside us, and we are so intoxicated with that hormone that we react.
मेरा मतलब ये था कि as you are going on the journey, you would want to do a benchmark, let's say. How far have I gone? It seems like
Yes,
like this is sort of a benchmark.
But I would
But-
urge you not to
But-
start on that path. Then.
That's what I was saying. Is it important to have the benchmark?
No,
And so, if there is no benchmark, then how do you
Not-
realize
not-
that you've arrived?
it will come. It will come. Let me tell you. There is a saying in Zenism that when the disciple is ready, the master appears. Don't be in a hurry to look for a master. If the master hasn't come, it only says the disciple isn't ready yet. So, let me finish the thought. When you reach that stage where you think that the mind may be playing the tricks with you and you need to validate whether it is my own creation, is the mind telling me? You will see if you go to any one of the churches, this story is being repeated from now to the Christmas, that when Jesus went for 40 days and 40 nights into the desert, into the hills to pray, that when he was ready to finish that 40 days of his meditation, the story goes, this is how they tell the story, and I'm going to just say that way, even though it is parable, it is saying something else, but let me give you the story the way they are repeating it. They are saying that the devil appeared to him in the form of God and said, you have arrived. Whatever you were looking for, that house of thy father, I am your father. You have arrived. If you don't believe me, jump from this hill and I'll save you. If you want to test, go on the river Jordan there and walk, and thou shall not sink. And his response was, why should I do all that? Because doing that would mean I do not trust my father. I'm testing him. I trust my father. I don't need to find out if I have arrived or not. I'm not going to check him. And suddenly the devil appeared in the real form because he was testing him. He was trying to create that doubt in him. Maybe I am not there yet. Let me check out whether I'm there or not. Because that desire to check actually is a indication of the doubt. When you get to that stage, history is proof of that there has always been an evolved master who appeared and helped to take to the next stage. So if you want to go on that journey, leave all the doubts and the tests and the validations and the verifications behind. Just go with that paradigm. There's a beautiful parable that there was on a hill somebody mountaineering and suddenly slipped. And he started falling down. And while he's falling down, there is a little branch of the tree and he catches the tree and hangs like this. Now he's hanging by that tree branch and he's yelling, oh please save me, mujhe bachao, koi hai sunne wala, खूब शोर मचा रहा है. Suddenly उसके कान में आवाज आती है, leave the branch, I'll catch you. इधर देखता है, there's nobody. शोर मचाना शुरू करता है, कोई बचाओ. फिर आवाज आती है, leave the branch, I'll save you. So he says, unless I can see you, how do I know you will save me? See, therein lies the problem. When I want him on my terms. It has never happened. He has always come on his own terms, in his own way, at his own time, at his own pace. No one has ever been able to change that law. So you have to walk with that faith. That when I'm falling, I'm just going to let the branch go back. It's a beautiful story of a Muslim Sufi fakir. Very poor, living in a very, very shabby environment. Very painful living. Destitute. And he every night used to pray, "Oh, you are so graceful, you are taking care of all of my needs." And one day, the king walked by and he saw him praying. "Oh, thank God for taking care of all my needs." So king came to him and got angry and said, "This is blasphemy. A saint should not lie at least. You are living the most miserable life. There is no hut for you. You are hungry. There is no clothes for you. Your body is weak, and you are saying, with all this pain and misery, you are saying, thank for taking care of my needs. What needs is taking care of?" And he says, this life's needs are pains and frustration. And he's taking care of all of them. This life's needs are nothing but pains and frustrations. I need this. Well, how do you know? He says, I don't have to know, he knows. I don't have to know it. He knows what I need. And since he has given nothing but pains and frustration this life, those are my needs. Thank you very much. Can we say that? हम पता क्या कहते हैं? मैंने तेरा क्या गवाया है? आज तक किसी को अपने दिल से दुख नहीं दिया. पता नहीं खुदा को क्या हो गया. ये राम हमारे पीछे क्यों पड़ा? पड़ोसी देखो, साला रोज शराब पी, जुआ खेलता है, ये करता है, वो करता है, उसको कुछ नहीं कहता, मेरे पीछे पड़ा. Do you think we can go on that path with that attitude? No way. That's what I was saying. When you look inside and turn the torch around, you're going to see few things inside. When I deal with business people, my normal example to them is, drain the pond slowly. You're going to start finding some rocks, and then when the pond grows, you will find some fish which is absolutely dried up and stinking like crazy. And there's going to be so much smell that if you come back and say, I have cleaned up 50% of the pond, it's still going to smell. 50% of removal of the smell does not remove the smell. The only way you're going to remove the stink is to remove it 100%. So start draining the pond. What is draining the pond? You have so much fat in the added around. Start eliminating it. And you start finding the inefficiencies in your organization. That's the business world. I apply the same rules over there also. I tell them the same parables and they laugh at it, and I tell the same parables and I connect with the business world. Because the rules are the same when it comes to the execution. Laws inside will be different. In the outer world, I'll tell them, if you have 10, you need to make more 10 so that it becomes 20. If you give 5 to somebody, you're going to be left with 5. But in the inner world, when you share with somebody, it certainly has multiplied.